Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are gonna go back in time to meet with our intellectual ancestors. Our story begins in 1930s, just before the Second World War. It was the years of the rising of the Third Reich in Germany. And this is where our story takes us. Our story takes us to an extraordinary individual, a professor at Berlin, who revolutionized and overthrown the ideas of Sir Isaac Newton, which was so fundamental for over 200 years to calculate the motions of the celestial bodies. But Einstein, with such elegant brilliance, has come up with equations that was able to relate an unknown relationship between space and time. But his calculations, his intelligence has been the definition of the Prussian science. He was selected by the father of the Prussian science himself, Max Planck, to come to Berlin from Zurich. He was the most brilliant person in Germany and the world. And you know how Germans paid him back? They paid him back by saying that his science isn't German science. They said that it is Jewish science, that he doesn't belong to that country. He had to flee his own country just to ensure that his life will not be taken. Philipp Lenard, who he admired during his education years in Zurich, was giving lectures discriminating him extensively. So this is how Germany paid him back. We are going to visit to another frontier of the Second World War. We are going to go to the other front, to Britain. In Britain, as you know, Britain won the Second World War. And how did they do that? Well, you might say that atomic bombs had some help, and we are going to visit that story as well. But another incredible story behind it is the breaking of the Enigma. Enigma was supposed to be unbreakable encryption that was used by Germans during the Second World War for any of their connections. I mean, they were sending their messages by encryption using Enigma. And that Enigma code theoretically had more possibilities than the total number of sent particles in the whole world. So it was unimaginable task to be able to deduce which Enigma setting that was used to encrypt the code. And those settings, in addition, were reset after every 24 hours, meaning that it would be total impossibility for any single human being to decrypt it. And Britain as a country has collected the most brilliant minds in the country to be able to calculate this problem. They have collected the chess champion of the country and also Alan Turing. Alan Turing, many people can dub him maybe a strange man, and he was. He was a brilliant, and he is the definition of genius. He came up with the Turing machines when he was 24, I think, while he was visiting Princeton as well. So, by using his idea of Turing machines, he was able to develop a universal Turing machine to decrypt the code, because he said that we have only one chance to decrypt the code. We can only win against a machine by using another machine. And his intuition was right. He and his team was able to decrypt the Enigma. And it is said that this outcome of their work has been so substantial that it decreased the length of the war by 2 years. So it's incredible. He saved millions of lives. But you know how Britain paid him off? Britain paid him off by conducting him as a homosexual man, and they said to him, you will either go to a prison or you will get a hormonal therapy, and he had to get hormonal therapy just for his work to not get abandoned, because he know that it was so fundamental, and he died. I mean, he committed suicide after a year because he couldn't just take it. This is how Britain paid this man off. This might be the most brilliant mathematician that has come out of Britain after Sir Isaac Newton, and this is how the country paid him off. No one knew what he did for his country when he was there. I mean, it's crazy. And now we're gonna visit another person in United States, J. Robert Oppenheimer. Many of you watched the movie Oppenheimer, and you are familiar with the story actually. But let me briefly explain you Oppenheimer again. Oppenheimer was a leader. So he wasn't truly the single guy that has come up with the atomic bomb. And it can be attributed to theoretical works of Einstein actually, and maybe Curie's. So Oppenheimer was a good leader, and he was able to compart the building of the atomic bomb into several parts that has led to the building of the bomb in the end. But so without Oppenheimer, one might argue that the atomic bomb would have been possible, because he wasn't really the single guy who came up with the idea, and he was actually, compared to, for example, the other brains that were in Manhattan Project, maybe even can be classified as like a second degree physicist. I mean, compared to Feynman and Niels Bohr. I mean, he was a very short-term participant, but I'm sure that he participated in that. So what I'm trying to say is that despite this, he was influential and he was so vital for development of the atomic bomb. And you know how the country paid him off? The country paid him off by declaring him as a communist, by declaring him as a traitor, and they just destroyed their reputation. This is how countries pay their most brilliant minds, unfortunately. And lastly, I will give you an example from Turkey. We are going to visit Ankara, where I am here now. We are going to visit Middle East Technical University. We are going to visit the most brilliant physicist Turkey has ever brought, Feza Gürsey. Feza Gürsey was a professor at METÜ. He wanted to be at METÜ. He wanted to represent METÜ at the highest stages of academia. But as you can understand, METÜ back then was a very young university, and it didn't have very good credentials upon its belt. So he wanted to become a dual professor with Yale University. But you know what METÜ did? They said that, no, we have bureaucratic rules. They kicked him off. They kicked off the most brilliant physicist this country has ever produced. Yeah, this is how we pay our most brilliant minds, unfortunately. So thank you, and stay with physics.